now we are going to continue moving forward, and I know it says to find C, D, and E, but we're actually finding X, Y, and Z. So again, I'm going to set up my 3 triangles. So I'm going to start with my longest triangle. So again, short side on the bottom. So my short side is Z, my long side is Y. Now my hypotenuse is going to be the sum of these two, which is X plus 9. Now I want to take a look at my medium triangle. Again, just setting these up so I can see. Here's my medium triangle. So my short side goes down here, that's X. My long side is 12, and then my hypotenuse is Y. Last but not least, let's take a look at this guy right here. So we're going to take our short one. So my short side is going to be 9. My long side is going to be 12. Oops, I'm sorry, I have this one flip-flopped. My long side on this one is X, and this is 12. There we go, that'll help us later. And then for this one, my hypotenuse is Z. See, even I make mistakes. It's tough setting it up, so if you need help on the practice sheet, please feel free to come up and I'll set it up with you, okay? Because this stuff is really confusing. So first of all, I noticed that I have 12, 9, and just a Z. So I have 2 of the 3 numbers in that triangle. When I have 2 of the 3 numbers in any triangle, I can immediately go to use the Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to take my A squared plus my B squared, and that's going to be equal to Z squared. Okay, so I get 144 plus 81 is equal to Z squared, and that's going to give me Z squared is equal to 225, so Z is equal to 15. So now I'm going to go plug those values in. So now my Z is 15 here, and my Z is 15 here. So next, I'm going to try and find X. So I see that I have X as a long side and a hypotenuse. Okay, so here I have the long side and the hypotenuse of both values. So let's kind of set up our proportions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do X plus 9, okay, on the top of one of them. So X plus 9. You know what? Let's make it even easier than that, okay? So here I see that I have X, so let's use this triangle instead. So we're going to compare these 2 triangles. So I have long side and I have a short side. So I'm going to do long side over my short side, and then I'm going to do my short side of this triangle, or sorry, my long side over my short side. Okay, so long side, short side, short side. It doesn't matter what you put where as long as you're consistent. So let's go ahead and let's solve this for X. So you're going to cross multiply. 9 times X is 9X, and that's equal to 144. Divide both sides by 9, and you get that X is equal to 16. So now we know that X is equal to 16. Well, once we get X for 16, we have 16 here, 12 here, and my third value is Y. So I'm ready to use that Pythagorean theorem for Y. So I have 16 squared plus 12 squared is equal to Y squared. So then I get 144 plus 256 is equal to Y squared. Y squared is equal to 400, so we're going to take the square root of both sides, and we get that Y is equal to 20. So let's take a look at this last example. It looks kind of complicated because we're only given a couple of values, but that actually makes it easier. In fact, we don't need to even draw out the large triangle because it won't help us. So we're just going to focus on the medium triangle and the small triangle. So here's my medium triangle. The short side of my medium triangle is always the altitude. So that's W plus 4 is my short side of that. And then my long side is 24. Taking a look at this guy right here, my long side is going to be W plus 4. So of your small triangle, your altitude is your long side, and your short side comes from that split side. Okay, so now what we want to do is I am ready to do my setup. So I'm going to do my short side of the first triangle over the long side of that triangle, and then the short side of the next triangle over the long side of the one following that. So now I'm ready to cross multiply. So this, what's going to happen is I'm going to have to use some skills that I learned in Algebra 1. So I have W plus 4 times W plus 4, and that's going to be equal to 24 times 6, which is 144. So now, to multiply that, I have to use something called the box method. So that's where we set it up kind of like a Punnett square like you do in biology. So we have W plus 4, I'm just writing the terms across the top and writing them down the side. This should be a review to you from last year. So W to the first times w to the first is w squared. 4 times w is 4w. 4 times w is 4w. 4 times 4 is 16. So now I have w squared plus 4w plus 4w is plus 16 is equal to 144. So then I have w squared plus 16w, plus 8w plus 16 is equal to 144. It should be 144. So now I have a quadratic. Back in algebra, in order to solve quadratics, we use two methods. We either use factoring or the quadratic formula. So let's try factoring first. So in order to use factoring, we have to have 0 on both sides. So I'm going to subtract 144 from both sides. Then I get w squared plus 8w minus 128 is equal to 0. So now I need to set up my x. So I'm multiplying to a negative 128. You get that by taking this number, which is a 1, times the last number, and that gives you a negative 128. So we're multiplying to a negative 128 and adding to 8. So we need a positive and a negative factor. So this is where multiplication charts come in handy. You can kind of just play around with numbers, see what fits, and so forth. So what I found that works is 16 minus 8. So because this number right here is 1, I can immediately put this into factored form, meaning my factors are w plus 8 and w minus 8. And we're setting that equal to 0. So now if you remember using something called the zero product property. Now when you use the zero product property, you're going to take each factor and set it equal to 0. So for this guy right here, I'm going to take and I'm going to subtract 16 from both sides. So I get w is equal to a negative 16. Here, you're going to add 8 to both sides, and you get that w is equal to 8. Well, we don't want to have negative distance. That doesn't make sense to us, so we're going to throw that out. So the only answer that works is that w has to be 8. So again, guys, this is tough to start off with, so please make sure you're asking me questions during homework, and we'll try and do some of these together, okay? So that concludes your note video today. Please show me your note sheet once you're done. Thanks for listening.